You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 41 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is Mr. Amendment 1, Matt Lowe.
So,
Men want her. Women want to be her. And local governments fear her. Jessica Szilagyi.
Hello. It's quite an intro.
You finally found one you like after 41 episodes?
I'm not sure. We'll see.
So how was your week?
Cold. I hate the cold.
So, Matt, you tried to pick a fight with an American gladiator. The dude is a walking steroid.
right? You're talking about Kyle?
I am, man. Look, you said something reasonable. He had some complaint about a Dodge dealership in town. You said something reasonable like, why don't you go talk to the manager? And all of a sudden, Matt's the a-hole.
Yeah, that was... Well, you know what it was? It was because in typical Matlow fashion, not only did I make a reasonable suggestion, but I did put a condescending remark about, or you could just go complain to government at the end. So that was probably what really set him off. That and he and I had a thing several months back. The backstory to this is somebody on one of our local garage sale pages, some woman posted wanting a lawyer to do adoption paperwork for free. And through the whole thing came out that she just couldn't afford to pay a lawyer for it. And I may have made the remark that, look, if you can't afford to pay a lawyer to do that, maybe now isn't the time to adopt. And, you'd have thought that I told this woman her baby was ugly, or, I don't know, it was terrible. The reaction to that one statement was horrible. And Kyle, he jumped all over me that day, and we really went at it pretty hard over that. And I guess he's still carrying that around from 3 months ago or whatever it was.
That and the roid rage?
Yeah, that too. I think the funniest part of that whole thing was, there was bona fide swearing and name calling in that thread. And the admins, who are normally, will squash that kind of stuff, were like, well, I'm glad y'all got that out of your system now.
Jessica, the best post I saw last week was a local government saying, whatever Jessica wants, give it to her.
Yeah, that would be so much easier if they would just give me, a login,
Right?
Everyone just let me... It's not the first time it's happened, though. I forget which city it was. It was
every Nigerian prince ever has said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Just give me access.
Yeah, just give me your password. Be way easier.
Yeah. It would be easier. It would just cut costs and speed up the process, and we'd all be happier.
Well, at that point, though, look, if they were going to give you that kind of access, you'd be out of a job. Because you wouldn't have anything to write about. Other than, one article that's oh, yeah, they're doing great.
From your lips to God's ears, if government were that transparent and we did not need the fourth estate, please.
Right? There are cities and counties where, I have that kind of relationship where I can ask for whatever I want. I don't even have to file requests. They're just that open and willing to share information, but it's definitely not the norm.
Right.
At all. Obviously. I filed 4 open records requests in one day last week. 4. Like, and they were all in 15 minutes.
Well, you're industrious. So, an American missionary, this is going back a week and a half, was killed by a remote tribe in India.
What?
All right. So, like, I have a very difficult time feeling sorry for this guy. And I'll tell you why. This particular tribe on this particular island was, like, I had heard of this island previous to this story. I'd read stories before about this island and how they fiercely guard their territory. Like one of the stories that I'd read was and they talked about it in this article, was the in 2006 the fisherman that accidentally drifted ashore and they killed him. Like, they do not tolerate people, and this was a known thing. This guy, he knew about it. He wrote about it in his journal. He knew that he could end up dead, and he went anyway. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him at all.
I agree with what you're saying, and I don't know if you mentioned this if this is what you were alluding to, but, like, travel is actually restricted there.
Right, yeah.
By the government. So, I mean, not only are all of the things that you said true, but you're literally not supposed to go there.
Right, yeah. The Indian government is like, they are off limits. Now, here's the thing. If you really do a whole lot of research about it, they're not untouched. There was this dude in the 1880s, maybe, that made contact with that tribe and spent a fair amount of time with them, kidnapped some of their kids. From some of the accounts that I've read, says that he may have been fairly abusive to those kids sexually. And so you think about it, man, 1880, you're just outside of one human life. So, in a community where, they estimate that there's 50 to 100 people in this tribe, you're talking about people who may have very well known those kids and heard the stories about what this white visitor guy did. And I could absolutely see why they would react that way to people showing up. The last guy we let in did this. Fine, we're not letting anybody else in.
I wouldn't go that far. You're talking about a primitive tribe that probably has a lifespan of 50 years on the outside. But this is the way that tribes have acted for millennia, which is reject outsiders. And this goes back to a point that you made a couple weeks ago about groups self-segregating, is they reject the outside. They want to be left to themselves. And the bigger point to the whole thing is what happened to the Native Americans here. They have no immunity to our diseases. So you can love Jesus all you want and want to bring Jesus to them, but you also bring smallpox.
Right. Influenza. Measles.
Yeah, well, that comes into my own house. Thanks, honey.
I also thought it was really interesting that the article that we're all referencing said that they've arrested the fisherman who took him by boat to the island, but that there probably won't be prosecution for the murder because they're protected and like contact with them is illegal.
Right.
to keep disease off the island and to preserve their way of life. So the Indian authorities do things from offshore. They do welfare checks and make sure they have what they need, but they don't actually go on the island, which is a pretty incredible concept when you think about the massive region over there and the fact that these people are kind of just operating on their own. Right?
Well, and think about the fact that this was not this guy's first attempt. They were repelled 2 or 3 times by arrows, and he decided that he would go on his own by himself in a canoe, and he was paddled past the arrows coming in, and then the fishermen going by watching what happened, see them dragging his body by his neck and all that stuff. And I said it in the message to you guys, which was F this guy. You can't miss many more messages of stay away than advancing through a hail of arrows.
Right.
And keep going. Yeah, that's a sign that they don't want you.
Right.
And he was aware of the people who have died trying to get there. And he was aware of the stories from the other fishermen that they did not want to be contacted.
He was aware. He wrote in one of his journals that they shot stuff and like an arrows punctured his Bible. Like, he was aware they were trying to kill him. It wasn't even just that he's aware of previous encounters, which he clearly was. But he was aware that they specifically didn't want him there. And I don't know. Man, like I said, I feel sorry because the guy died, I guess. But, I mean, man, what's that saying about play stupid games, win stupid prizes?
I'm not sorry. Like I said, F him. He made a long list of poor decisions that led in his own death. They should put him up for a Darwin Award.
Right. Do they still do the Darwin Awards every year?
Only one has not been granted posthumously. That was a guy who castrated himself trying to break into some place.
My mom, when we lived in Montana, she worked in the emergency room, and she ran across a guy, or treated a guy who castrated himself with a butter knife.
I could have gone the rest of my life without hearing that story.
Right. You know what his reasoning was?
Go ahead.
Whatever religion flavor he was in, had this teaching that the things in your life that you could not control, you got rid of them, and I guess he took that very literally.
They meant your wife.
Right. By the way, they do still have the Darwin Awards. I'm looking at it. He actually won it.
Did he?
He's the November 2018 award winner.
It is this close to the end of the year, which means he very well will take it.
Well, it looks like they do a monthly award.
Well, you're gonna have a few things on this one. Someone who does endorse the Democrat for Public Service Commission is a longtime friend of ours, Debbie Dooley.
Debbie Dooley. So, Debbie Dooley is, she's that lady, I think, that someone in the media, 2, 5, and 11, whoever, I think they have her on speed dial for whenever they need someone to be fake outraged about something someone that's a Republican did. Oh my gosh. Oh. She's the one that started the Tea Party here, right?
Yes,
she credits herself with that.
Right. And I don't know, man. She's got a very long and storied past with the Republican Party here in our county. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. So much so that, like, a lot of the people that were against Brian Dobbs in his HD19 primary race had a little bit of a change of heart when Channel 5 ran that story about him, and it was Debbie that was on there, being all outraged about what he said in a forum 5 years ago. Like that's how. Like, I don't know exactly what that rift is, but a lot of people came around.
Well, a lot of people. That was the number one fundraising night for the campaign, and I'll disclose, I was inside that campaign. I was in the room when that interview happened, and it was nothing but laughs.
Hashtag me too.
Yes, I wasn't going to out you, man. Yeah, Matt was standing next to me, and we had a hard time standing up. We were laughing so hard. The Dobbs campaign raised money from lifelong Democrats after that ran, and not in District 19, saying, you're the kind of guy we need, you're honest and everything else. Debbie Dooley was the only one they could find to go on camera and go, let me see if I can do her voice. I would like him to join the Neanderthal party because that's where he deserves, and he don't belong in the Republican Party because that's not what we're about.
I hope this segment was longer because I want you to keep talking like that.
Right.
Well, and she was a drill here, drill now, pay less person until she was, and I don't know the facts on this, whether she's being paid by a solar energy company or she bought into a solar energy company, and now she is a, quote, green energy person, and that's why she's making the endorsement that she is.
Allegedly.
Sue me. I got nothing for her to take.
I don't think Debbie even knows what she stands for anymore.
Though, I think that's possible. So that I don't know, man. I think people now, because politics is so polarizing, and they feel like they have to be, this way. Oh, we got to support this guy because he's got the R next to his name, or whatever. Then I think that when you get people out and away from that and in a private conversation, man, you'll find out they're a mess and they're all over the place. It's like I have, we make jokes about my public land thing being, and I'm sure there are other things that I'm a mess about.
Okay, whoa. I want to go ahead and mark this as an anniversary because I saw the outline for episode 1. This is episode 41 in a row that you have mentioned public lands. You haven't taken an episode off. I read the notes. I just went through when I was trying to create an outline, and I went to episode 1, and it said Matt, public lands, and whatever the bill was that essentially became
the stupid Amendment 1 is the bill he wanted to talk about.
Yes, and that was episode 1 of this show 40 episodes ago, and he has not shut up about it.
Yes, but I just wrote down the minute mark where he said that his politics were a mess, so I'm going to get that on
loop.
Yep.
We don't have that kind of budget.
We've got Eric, though.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry to break your concentration.
No, that's all right. No,
Go ahead.
I was just saying that I think it's possible that there's a lot of people that are a mess like that. They're all over the place because, you get people that are, especially, man, I don't know. As you get into my group of people, the hooks and bullets crowd, man, and we are a mess. If you look at it from a policy standpoint, because we have somehow gotten ourselves into the situation where the Democratic Party is the party of clean water, clean air, public land access, properly managed forests, things like that, right? But they want to take my guns. Make it so that, you know? So you get into a really weird spot when, you know, I know you hate the term the children and things like that, but I think of all the things that you could do policy-wise and use that term, do it for the children, is leave them a planet worth living in. And I think that should cross, you know, the I or the R or L or D boundaries. But man, with tribal politics the way it is, it doesn't. It's sad.
Jessica, is the planet cleaner now than it was 150 years ago during the Industrial Revolution?
I don't know. You were there.
Oliver Twist and I. Now,
I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'm sure in some regards, I think you think about the mechanisms of the way we produce things and the way that we did life back then, but now you think about the sheer number of people we have doing it in a more efficient and greener way. So is it a net?
Well, I would tend to think that the days that we were letting sewage roll into the river, the Thames River was disgusting during the 1800s and 1700s. London was densely populated. Everybody was burning coal for heat and cooking over coal, and you would not dare eat out of the Thames River. And much the same about the Ganges today. The holiest river in India is, to paraphrase Dali, it's doo-doo in the stream. It is absolutely disgusting. You would not dare drink the water out of the Ganges, and that's the most holy river in India. It seems that developed nations create less pollution than developing nations.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have any, science background to back that up, but as somebody who's traveled around the world and somebody who observes that kind of stuff, it sure does seem clean here and dirty other places.
So, in other words, what Dave just said was, I'm not an expert, but I know more about this than either of the two of you, so I'm going to head and assert this.
Oh, you can apply that to any subject.
Well, when you're 200, I mean, you know a lot.
With the exception of Brooklyn.
Right.
Dave's an egotistical a-hole. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I am. So, the human gaff machine, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, God, I love her.
She is a mess.
Oh, God, I want to move her in and, get her a litter box and put her somewhere in the corner of the house, because she is just
a litter box? Oh, my Lord.
She's the gift that keeps on giving.
She is. She is that.
So she decided to go out and discuss the Georgia race. And, of course, being a congresswoman-elect from New York, she's obviously an expert on Georgia politics.
Right.
And allow me to quote... I can't do her voice. I'm sorry.
Do it in Debbie Dooley's voice.
I'm gonna get
Wait,
so
no,
sued.
do it with Debbie's voice with a New York accent. Just
Good
try.
Lord. How about this? Lucy McBath is a hero. After losing her son to gun violence, she ran for Congress against the NRA incumbent. She was previously a flight attendant. Lucy was outspent 5-1, but she kept running with her conviction. She won, flipped Georgia 6 in a major upset no one saw her coming.
Is that like California Valley Girl on weed?
But still a dude, yeah.
Through Alex Trebek.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know where to go from there.
I really have taken the show down. I mean, you guys had a really like intelligent show before you brought me on.
Are you sure, Dave? I mean, I remember a show where I talked about a red baboon ass.
That was content that I gave you.
Yeah, it was.
So, this story, I'm going to bring the plane back over the airport.
Bring it back over. Air traffic control at it again.
This is an interesting. This whole race, I think, was interesting. We're talking about Karen Handel and Lucy McBeth, and Karen Handel, her race in terms of money from the NRCC and fellow Republican lawmakers and everything from around the country, she got a lot less money than a lot of other women up for re-election. And so the fact that homegirl from New York thought that Lucy McBeth was outspent 5-1 is just outrageous. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's on a single website where this could all be found too, to be mouthing off like that.
Well, Matt, the article on PolitiFact cites the suburban Atlanta area being frustrated with gun violence. Is that where you really place the credit for turning of that seat?
No, I wouldn't. Man, look, that seat was just had an election not too long ago with was it Ossoff? And she barely won it then. It doesn't shock me that something in Metro Atlanta is flipping blue. It just
and what you said is the whole reason that her numbers are inflated because the FEC keeps records for 2 years. So when you consider that she just had an election and then you go a 2-year cycle, then the money she raised with Ossoff is included in this.
right.
I also think there's a certain point of candidate fatigue. Karen Handel has been on so many ballots, and then you put her up twice in 2 years. People are just tired of seeing it.
Right.
I think she exhausted her coffers against Ossoff. Nobody knows why voters do anything, including the voters. So for any pundit to say, well, obviously the voters of this district are upset about gun violence. Well, I've been around suburban Atlanta, and there are probably 10 gun stores in that district, and I'm probably underestimating.
Probably.
But for Ocasio-Cortez, this is not new for her. She doesn't know the 3 branches of government.
You know what I find the funniest about that lady is, there's all kinds of memes floating around about her, and you never know which ones are true and which ones aren't. I mean, they're all utterly ridiculous. But even the things that she actually says are meme-worthy because they're utterly ridiculous.
No, I love her, and I'm glad she was elected because she's going to be just nonstop entertainment for 4 years.
Right.
I mean, it's not like that New York seat was going to go to a Libertarian. Even if someone hung an R after the name, it would be a Chris Christie style Republican. We weren't going to get a liberty-minded person out of New York. So the fact that we just get nonstop memes out of her. Just it warms me to my soul. And every time I scroll past my news feed and see her face with her smile on there saying something stupid, I love it. Now, on a serious note, Jessica, not to bring you into our stupid stuff, she compared refugees on the border to being treated like Jews from the Holocaust.
She did, and I am not a refugee and I'm not Jewish, so I hate to say that it's offensive, but I can imagine that it would be offensive to an entire group of people that were literally being exterminated. To compare that horrific event in history to what's happening at our border right now, which is borderline invasion.
Matt,
which is being met with non-lethal force, by the way.
Now, Matt, at what point should we compare somebody to Hitler?
Oh, so what is that? Godwin's law? Is that what that is?
Yes, one of your favorite internet quotes.
Right, the longer that a discussion on the internet goes on, the higher the likelihood that Hitler gets brought into it. Man, I don't know. And here's the thing that always irritates me about it. It's like there's like 10 other dudes that were way worse than Hitler. Like, I get 6 million's a big ass number, right? But
are you saying that Hitler had a better press agent?
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of guys that killed a lot more people, and to constantly invoke his name as the as the epitome of evil like that, it's irritating.
Well, you have to credit Goebbels. No, look, here's the thing: is we know we have Pol Pot. We know that Stalin executed way more. I mean, I think it's twice, and he was our ally. But we don't have the footage of those camps that we do out of Auschwitz and places like that.
Right.
Here's the thing: before you compare anyone to Hitler, ask yourself, has he killed at least, I'm going to go half, 3 million people?
Right.
No? Let's go ahead. Let's just do a little flow chart. Has he killed 3 million people personally? No, then not Hitler.
Right.
And the former host and occasional guest on this show, Jonathan Giles, said if you call somebody a snowflake, you go down, in my estimation, 20 IQ points. The minute you break out Hitler and a non-historical reference, you drop 50 IQ points in my estimation. It's nonsensical. It cheapens what happened to 6 million people. And honestly, it says more about the person who says it than it does the person who's said about.
I agree. Very succinctly put.
Right. And sorry to ruin the jocular nature of the show. This is a good time to remind everyone that these are our opinions and not necessarily those of All on Georgia. Although I can't imagine anybody would disagree with the last statement.
Right.
No, they're definitely Hitler. President Trump, floated out this idea on Twitter that the U.S. should launch a state TV network. So, Jessica's for it.
What's it going to do? Like, what are they going to talk about? I mean, is it just like, straight up propaganda about, how great the U.S. is? Or...
Well, Trump's specific quote was, "Throughout the world, CNN has a powerful voice portraying the United States in an unfair and false way. something has to be done, including the possibility of the United States starting our own worldwide network to show the world the way we really are. Great. In your very best Tony the Tiger voice.
Can you Debbie Dooley that?
Dave, take it away.
I can do Tony probably. Great.
But I mean, my first problem with this is that it's a response to CNN. Like, the government should not be reacting to
media like that.
Not like that. I mean, that's my first problem with it. Like, he's just so blatant about his disdain for the media. He fuels it. I've always said I don't agree with how Trump is treated in the media, and I do believe there's plenty of fake news out there, and I believe that there's a huge media bias. I see it in articles I read, and he's in more, I mean, the stuff they talk about him and his wife and his family, they've never spoken about that stuff with other presidents. However, like, quit fanning the flame. Quit.
Right.
Why would he do that?
Control. This
No.
makes him look like a power hungry. Oh,
No,
I know what you're saying. But.
No, why would he not fan those flames? His supporters hate CNN. I don't like CNN either. Like, if I'm in a country, and it happens every so often, I'm in a country that the only English-speaking channel is CNN, and every half hour, an F word will come out of my mouth because the stuff that they're reporting.
It's terrible. But
no, it is. But to say that, you know what? I'm gonna pull back on this because of my background. Matt, are you ready to have TV USA every time that you go? Oh, when you go on your cruise and you turn your channels, channel 3 will be TV USA. Are you ready for that?
No, only because I envision like a national version of TV 23 when I see that. Like, I don't know. Do they have Channel 23 down there where you're at, Jessica?
I don't know.
So for people that are listening and don't know, Channel 23 is typically your county run.
Oh yes,
TV
we have that
show or TV station, and it's Paulding's is getting better because they have some guys dedicated to it, and they're going through and they air all the meetings, things like that. But man, used to, it was just garbage. You might pull it up and look, and it was just a camera just aimed out at this field, and just watch a field for a while, see what strolled through it or whatever. And I looked at it like it was just a tremendous waste of taxpayer dollars. And then occasionally there would be some interview on there with some dude from the county, and he was being interviewed by somebody who was terrible at doing interviews. So, I don't know. I guess I just envision a national version of that.
It sounds like a horrible idea overall. I mean, if you read just press releases that come from government agencies, like, that is their job to put out a statement on, anything that happened. But even the press releases are one-sided. So what kind of coverage would we be getting from a TV station?
We have a listener I wish we brought in, and she worked in the public affairs office in the Air Force, and did this for a living, is give press releases and instruct generals on how to speak to the media. And if I was smarter and actually read the stories beforehand, I'd have gotten her in. My background, as people who've listened before know, is psychological operations. I will give a disclaimer. The United States Army does not engage in propaganda. We engage in information dissemination. And we are doctrinally restricted from operating within the confines of the United States. That being said, when you set up TV stations in other countries, not only do you pick your programming, you pick your message and your messenger specifically, and you have a goal in mind of what your message is. So if you could think of 24-hour programming from Russia in your language that is essentially an after-school special where the moral of the story is always Russia is good. That's what this turns into.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with Radio Free Berlin. I don't have a problem with the other operations that were done. The idea that we're going to create a news outlet. Now remember, this is the fourth estate. News, the press, was regarded by our founding fathers as separate, not governmental, as designed to hold our government accountable to the people. The First Amendment was specifically designed not to keep voters, voting booths out of churches, but to keep the government from dictating to the press what they can and can't print, despite what Lincoln did.
I don't know, man. Like, I just, like, on the surface of it all, like, I think about every time I'm watching some story, right? And they're talking about something out of North Korea or Iran or some other place in the Middle East, and they're like, oh, their state TV said this. Like, I automatically dismiss it. Like, it just, whatever it is that they said, I'm like, oh, that's bull. And it goes in one ear and right out the other. And I just can't imagine that other people wouldn't automatically do the same if it was our state-run TV.
Well, and Jessica, let's put all the ethical, moral, factual things aside. Is this what we need to be spending money on?
No, I don't think so. And, I did a little research just because I wanted to know what the budgets were for Voice of America. And they broadcast worldwide. Voice of America is the radio station that does what Trump would want done. And he kind of already has control over it because it's budgeted. But anyway, it broadcasts worldwide to 236 million people. And it costs $218 million a year to do. And that's radio. And I can't confirm this, but I would venture to guess that it's cheaper to have a radio station than a television station.
So they only broadcast to 260 million people worldwide?
Well, I would imagine that there are people who don't have radios, Matt.
Well, I mean, I would too, except, I mean, you can make a radio out of some really, like a rudimentary radio really easily.
You think the Indians we talked about in the show earlier have radios?
I think that if they had a speaker and a coil of wire, they could.
Huh.
Like, did you read much on the article about those Indians? Like, there's a shipwreck of it was like chicken feed or something like that right off the coast of that island, and they scavenged that ship, and within just a handful of years, they saw that they had learned whole new ways of doing things just from the things they had scavenged from that ship. Like they moved to super sharp arrowheads made out of metal that they got from that boat, when previously it was just sharpened wood. So it wouldn't shock me to see leaps like that. So I don't know. I guess I'm just a little amazed that in a world of 7 billion people that we spend $218 million to broadcast a radio show to to 268 million. When we got
It's almost $1 for every person.
right, but if you just broadcast,
Thank God
it
they're
here,
not spending $7
you're
billion.
talking about 330 million people right here in the States.
Sure. Well, have you ever listened to Voice of America?
No, I didn't know it existed until right now.
I didn't know it existed until everyone started arguing about this state-run TV thing, and so I wonder if that that's how they keep their statistics. I don't know how you measure the reach. Is it actual people who listen, people who have access to it? Like, where does that number come from, Dave?
It's estimated. There's no way you can tell who's tuning into you. It's
BS. We got the NSA. They know exactly what we're doing.
Well, we also have something called Commando Solo, which is an EC 130.
Sounds like a strip club.
Yeah. It is a C-130. We can fly over an area and take over the broadcasts in the area. We can take over radio, TV, and broadcast our own stuff. It flies out of a special operations group in Pensacola, and it can be deployed to any area that's secured enough to not have pot shots going at propeller-driven planes. This is nothing new as a form of information dissemination.
Do we do that often? With Commando Solo?
It exists often enough to maintain it.
Interesting.
Keep in mind, I've been out of the community for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is technology that existed when my old ass was doing it. And I'm not letting loose of any sources or methods or anything like that. This is well documented. It's something that we can do.
Sure.
It wasn't classified then. It's not classified now. But it's a capability that we've had for a long time. Now you throw the NSA in there and a couple other agencies, and we could take over satellite broadcasts. And Johnny Hajad can sit in his living room and think that he's watching his normal programming and watch what we tell him that we want him to see. So we can cut out, I don't know what a sitcom would be in Baghdad. Boom goes the infidel, and then run our own ads in and put our own stuff in. Those are capabilities we've had for decades. So this idea that, and this goes back to my Trump talk versus Trump does theory. He says stuff that is outlandish because he is, frankly, a grandfather from Brooklyn. So he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just tweets crazy shit and doesn't do anything about it. It doesn't follow it up. But the problem I have with this idea that he tweeted is this is not original for his administration. This was an idea that Pence had a few years ago for Indiana.
Yeah, Pence was also at the center of a huge Open Meetings and Open Records Act scandal for lacking Sunshine Law provision. So I don't really take what he has to say worth any value. And he doesn't provide nearly the great memes that Biden did.
Right.
Or the shoulder rubs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's one thing you're not going to catch Pence doing, and that's being in a some sort of sexual misconduct.
Hey, I will not criticize that guy for that. Look at what's happening to everyone else.
Oh no, he's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Is, you know what? I'm not going to be in a room alone with a woman without my wife. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, that's kind of,
Cool.
Puritan. And then the pound me too thing happened. I'm like, that's the smartest guy in the damn room right there.
Yeah, he's got a whole lot of problems, but
You know what the best thing out of Mike
He's got
Pence
99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
For me personally, the best thing out of Mike Pence's office is all this talk about Nick Ayers, who is Mike Pence's chief of staff, and appears to be shortlisted for the new White House chief of staff. And the reason that that's fun for me is I went to school with Nick. So we all know him as the wrestler who got beat by a girl.
I'm going to need an article on that.
Right? And so there's just a lot of discussion with my friends from high school about it. And some of them are,
I can't wait to share this far and wide.
right? They laugh about it, and others are having absolute meltdowns about this. And I'm just like, he got beat by a girl.
I've got two observations on that. One, I've lost many wrestling matches to many girls happily. And the other is there is no winning going into a wrestling match or any other like physical thing against a woman. Either you beat her up and all you do is beat up a girl, or you lost to a girl.
No, man, I got a friend who he was the first wrestler at our school to have to wrestle a female, and you could see that internal thing, that internal battle with him was, do I lose to a girl or do I beat a girl? And he ultimately opted for beat the girl.
I have never opted for beat the girl. I just want to let everybody know. I don't mind getting pinned.
Is that a code word?
Yeah, the worst code word in the world. Well, I think we've beat down that subject. Closing thoughts. Public lands.
Right? I don't know. I kind of went on a public land thing a minute ago, so.
No, that's just your name now.
Right? Amendment 1 passed.
Go ahead, Jessica.
I'll only bring it up because Jessica told me I wasn't allowed to mention it ever again.
Does that take effect immediately or January 1?
Please, immediately.
If you say you don't know, I'm gonna chastise you for the rest of your life for not knowing the entirety of the bill.
In edit, we need to just put something over Amendment 1 every time he says it. That's totally embarrassing.
Right?
So when does it take effect, Matt?
I don't know.
What would Debbie Dooley say?
It takes effect sometime next year, but I don't know if it's January 1.
And for the record, I want Ned Beatty squealing from Deliverance every time Matt mentions Amendment 1.
I just watched that movie for the first time ever last week.
Oh, God, why?
I got talked into it. It was horrible. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah, that's not your friend.
What movie was that?
Deliverance. You haven't seen it.
No, haven't seen it.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's filmed in Georgia.
Yep, I fished that river.
Oh, yeah, that's just wonderful, Jessica. It's filmed in Georgia. That's the one you want to hang on, not The Walking Dead, but Deliverance.
Well, I will say, at least Deliverance didn't get a tax credit.
Ned Beatty got raped, but there was no tax credit.
At least they're pure. In their own very special way. What are your closing thoughts, Dave?
I floated something out to the group, and I think we're gonna go with it. We're gonna ask for questions from listeners for our Christmas show. Ask whatever you want to ask. We may not answer you, but ask. Send it to the Facebook page, and we'll be putting together a list of questions and answering honestly. The Reddit style, ask me anything.
Yes, and if you have a question that is for just one of us, like if you just want to know why Matt is the way he is, then just address that specifically to Matt.
Or Martha.
Yes. But no, I mean, if you have questions for individuals, then leave it at that. But we need at least 50 to make it a good show. So rapid fire away.
Right?
And if it works, it may become a weekly segment.
That would be fun. Oh, yes. Let's make it a thing that works.
Jessica?
Don't forget to vote.
Or don't vote. Either way.
Even if you don't want to vote for any of the people on the ballot, don't mess up your voting score. Go to the ballot and cast it blank. Or write someone.
Amen.
Don't mess up your voting score. That's funny.
Well, for Matt Lowe and Jessica Szilagyi, I'm Dave Roberts. Thank you for listening.
Later.